Hey everyone. Again, welcome to another month of our monthly Leadership Forum Community Incubating Leadership Conversations. Just a brief history about the Leadership Forum community. If you're new here, Leadership Forum community, also known as LFC, is a nonprofit 501c3 that has a long history of over 100 years of providing a space for leaders to convene, to explore leadership challenges, develop conscious leaders, and create solutions that result in meaningful and equitable change in the organization, education, and in society as well. So part of what we offer is our monthly programming as we host these ILCs, which stands for Incubating Leadership Conversations. These are learning and development conversations that serve as basically a safe space for leaders to convene together around a topic, and for provocateurs to share their insights, tools, and perspectives around a topic that they're passionate about. And so with that, today we have a special session with Hassell and Faith here, and they will be introducing a new Leadership Forum Community Mentorship program that will be available within our community. So this ILC is meant for anyone who wants to learn more about the program or more about topics around mentoring and coaching. This is a special session because this is a mother-daughter duo team. So we're very happy that they can join and just share their insight. They're bringing a lot of insight and experience to this conversation, as Hassell has over 35 years in leadership and professional development experience. And she's excited to start this mentoring program. And Faith is lead community and customer manager at National Grid. She's also happens to be marketing officer for our wonderful organization. So had the pleasure working with Faith as well, and really just looking forward to this conversation. So with that, although this is a conversation and we definitely support dialogue, we do ask that you mute yourselves as not to distract others while the speakers are presenting, and I will pass it over to Faith and Hassell to get us started.
Great, thank you for that. I'm really looking forward to being here. I have done a number of mentoring programs when I was working. I just recently retired, and I'm excited about bringing the concept of mentoring to the organization, and then also working with Faith in making the actual mentoring matches. So with that, Faith is going to be my producer so that I cannot have to worry about changing the slide. So you'll hear me say change to the next slide, just so that I can really focus on the conversation. To start off with, we have a quote from John Andrew Homer. "There is no experience better for the heart than reaching down and lifting people up." And when I think about mentoring relationships that I've been in, or other mentoring relationships that I've helped people match people up in my previous role, it's really wonderful to see how that experience can help you as an individual grow and become more confident in your abilities. And that's really one of the main purposes of the mentoring program. So with that, I'm going to kind of walk through a little bit of the agenda and some ground rules. And I do like to make this as interactive as possible because that's where the learning comes in. So with that, this is what the agenda is going to look like for the next 45 to 50 minutes. And so Faith, would you mind just reading through the agenda slide for us?
Sure. So we've already done our welcome, but we're going to go through some Zoom etiquette. Thank you, Joel, for doing our inclusion message and starting the conversation. So the next would be mentoring benefits. What makes a good mentor? What makes a good mentee? We'll talk about some program logistics, mentoring do's and don'ts, and then suggested areas of discussion for those of you that will partake in the program, and then next steps.
Okay, great, thanks for that. So some Zoom etiquette. I know a lot of you have probably already been doing this through this program or just even through your work environment. When you're speaking, if you can remember, it's always helpful to put your camera on. Sometimes we're not able to see everybody, and so it's helpful but when you are speaking, if we're able to see your face as well. Stay on mute, and we may need to remind individuals about that on a regular basis. That happens. Remember to unmute when we ask you to talk. And I do like to encourage participation because that's where the learning takes place. I'm just here to help facilitate and initiate some discussion, but I really want this to be a learning experience from your own current experiences. I will be calling on people, so it's okay to pass. I have a list of names, about 18 people. Those are joining in a little bit later. I may not call on you if I can't get back to the participant list. If I call on you and you've been distracted, or you're not comfortable answering the question, by all means, you can say pass and I will circle back around to you. In all of the webinars that I've done previously, we've had pussycats walking across the laptops, we've had phones ringing or people walking into the room or whatever. So the doorbell ringing. So I understand it's okay if you're not comfortable and you need to say pass. Utilize the chat feature and I will jump in there as I'm facilitating. However, if I do miss something, please just shout out anyone and say, hey, Carol, there's a really good question in the chat, and go ahead and bring that forward. And by all means, let's have some fun. Okay, so there's 3 questions that I'd like you to just start to think about, kind of as an icebreaker. And then I'm going to go through and call on a few people. So the first one is, how does it make you feel when you are heard? Who has ever had a mentoring relationship? And who has ever been coached by someone? So let's go back to the first question. So when you think about any kind of a situation, whether it be at work or part of this community or outside of a work environment, even at home, how does it make you feel when you're actually heard, when the message that you have or the situation that you have, that someone's listening to you? And I'd like to go to, so Giovanni, if you wouldn't mind taking yourself off mute. How do you feel about that question? How does it make you feel when your voice is being heard? Do you want to take yourself off mute? How about Matthew? Matthew, would you like to answer that? How does it make you feel when you're heard?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
When I feel heard, especially in a when I'm talking with mentors or elders or people with wisdom in a specific area, it definitely helps make me feel as if my concerns or my thoughts are validated, which can sometimes be encouragement to continue on, or even sometimes getting my course kind of corrected or my mindset corrected is really good, just when you're able to share those thoughts and get that second opinion, that second feedback of validation, and sometimes even direction guiding. So it kind of keeps me motivated overall, is how I feel.
That's great. Thank you. Really great insights. And let's have someone else. How does it make you feel when you're heard? So Chris H., would you like to unmute yourself? What are your thoughts on that? When your voice is being heard, whether it's at work or outside of work, how does that make you feel?
For me, I'd say feeling valued, feeling included, feeling part of, if it's coming up with a solution or coming up with a plan, and being a part of the process, and having that feeling of inclusion. Yeah,
that's great. Definitely. Feeling included, and that really ties in nicely with our inclusion moment. Thank you for that. And now I'm going to put it out there. Who has been in a mentoring relationship? And let me call on, let's see, Rebecca B. Have you ever been in a mentoring relationship?
I'm muting. You caught me with food in my mouth. Yes, I have. I have had a mentor, and I have mentored people.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what that was like in the mentoring relationship. What did you find to be valuable?
Yeah, so when I had a mentor at work one time, it was great because this person had experience that they shared with me. They were actually, their career path was very different than mine. Which was actually very helpful. So to gain a different perspective from someone who had different experience was incredibly valuable, because it allowed me to think differently about my own career path and also gain valuable information that I otherwise might not have access to. My mentor also challenged me to think differently, and also connected me with other resources. So that was great. As a mentor, I found it also really rewarding because likewise, even as a mentor, I learned a lot from my mentees, from the great questions that they asked. And it felt really good to be able to share what I've learned along the way with them as well.
Yeah, those are really, really great points. And those are all the things that I'm going to be talking about as we, go through this slide deck. So if you are in a mentoring relationship, not only as the person that's the mentee or the protege, not only are you learning, but the person that's mentoring you is also learning as well, which is so important. One of the myths about mentoring is, do I need to have somebody that's just like me? And, you said it great, Rebecca, that it's that somebody has differences, and that's kind of, a lot of where the learning comes in as well. So thank you for that. Anybody else who has ever, I'll just put it out there if somebody wants to like jump in. I know we don't want to, jump over each other in trying to talk or chat. But is there anybody else that wants to share that they've had a mentoring relationship and what was that like for them?
Well, Carol, I know that I've been mentored and I know that I've mentored others, but I haven't ever had somebody, like officially labeled as my mentor or that I was their mentor, nothing formal. So the boundaries of what is mentoring and not and all that are a little fuzzy to me, but I feel confident that I've had it.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And Amanda, how about you, Amanda? Nice to see you on the webinar.
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
So I've had an informal mentor before I realized she was my mentor, and it really helped me develop professionally. And then when years ago, probably like 6 or 7 years ago, I had a formal mentor through work, and I didn't really know how to handle the situation. Like, I didn't realize it was supposed to be driven by me. And I've learned a lot through informal mentoring.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing.
Formal.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. One of the things I'll be talking about is that you can have a very formal mentoring relationship and an informal one. And what do the boundaries look like around that? So we'll be talking a little bit about that. I see, Aziz, you have a question. You're on mute. You want to unmute yourself?
Yes, I just want to contribute to the mentorship relationship. Good evening, everyone. Let me just try to be great. Now, the mentorship is more or less like a mutual benefit. Just like you as a teacher, when you're teaching, the students are getting, and you, the teacher, is more or less serving as a revision. So over time, it makes the brain function more. By the time you are mentoring someone, you at the same time, you'll be conscious of some of the things that you are saying. Just like you are saying, don't steal. Telling someone not to steal is more or less trying to remind yourself that you are not also meant to steal. So it's a mutual benefit. So it's a win-win. As you are mentoring someone, you are also reminding yourself of those and what to do and what not to do. So it's a mutual.
Yeah.
So that's just what I just want to contribute to it.
Thank you for that. I love this.
At the same time, there are limits. Now, you don't go too personal. Like, you just have to be specific in area that will benefit. So you don't, out of mentoring does not mean you should pop into someone's personal affairs. So there are boundaries to things that you are supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I love what you said about it's a win-win, and it definitely is. It's a learning experience for everyone. So thank you for that. And we will go into talking a little bit more about what are some of those boundaries within the relationship. And then the last question I have, who has ever been coached by someone? So, coaching can come in many forms, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences at some point between mentoring and coaching. But who has ever been coached by someone, and what was that? How do you see a difference between the mentoring and coaching? And Sunny, would you like to take yourself off mute and respond?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. I don't know that I've ever been like formally coached by someone, but I was thinking about it, and it seems in a way, if you're really paying attention, you can kind of coach yourself through someone else. Like if you're paying attention to what someone else is doing or trying to learn or model their process, with enough attention, you can kind of get enough information from them about how they're doing it to really learn and improve the process yourself.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. And Sue, would you have anything that you'd like to add to that, about a coaching relationship? Have you ever been in if it's not formal, an informal coaching relationship?
Yes, I've been in an informal coaching relationship when I was in my late 20s. And that person really shaped kind of the rest of my life through just, like Sonny was saying, observing who he was, how he was, his ethics with the clients. And I learned so much by example, like you were saying, Sonny. And like part of what I was going to share for the last question is, I think a mentoring relationship, and it connects with your question, is it's a relationship. And, it's a relationship where whether you're on either side of it, the mentee or the mentor, there's caring there and you feel it, and so it's more than just it's not just transactional.
Great.
And there's
Yeah.
value. There's value.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. And we are going to talk about that. It is a relationship, right? So there's different kinds of mentoring. We can talk about a very formal mentoring process, which with the leadership forum, we're going to be making matches. There can be informal mentoring as well. So you might have a friend, and you might have, a certain kind of a background, and you have this very informal relationship mentoring them, or them coming to you with certain situations. There's also peer mentoring. So in some companies, they actually have peer mentoring. One of the programs that we ran at National Grid, we actually did group mentoring with some of our a leadership program that we rolled out for women, which turned out to be really, we weren't sure initially how that was going to work, but we had one mentor that actually was mentoring 3 or 4 women at the same time, and they would meet as a group. They would still have individual calls, but they would meet as a group. And it was something that actually some of those relationships, lasted for a very long time. And then there's reverse mentoring. There was a period of time where we were rolling out a reverse mentoring program where younger people that were getting hired into the company were actually working with our senior leaders, because our senior leaders were not comfortable at that time with all of the changes in the technology. And what a great way for individuals that are being brought into the company to work with some of our senior leaders and get them comfortable with doing things more in the technology field. So those are just some different kinds of mentoring relationships that are there. And then mainly what we're going to be focusing on is a more formal approach, making those mentoring matches through the leadership forum. Okay, great. Let's go to the next slide, Faith. So benefits of mentoring. Mentoring is a reciprocal and collaborative at-will relationship. There's that word again, that most often occurs between a senior and junior professional for the purpose of the mentee's growth, learning, and career development. So for the most part, a lot of times mentoring is really focused more on an individual's career development. So we talk about career and personal rejuvenation, enhanced creativity, enhanced employee development skills, model effective team leadership skills, style and behaviors, and also networking. So let's go back to the first bullet, career and personal rejuvenation. Why do you think in a mentoring relationship, that's one of the aspects that we're trying to do when we're establishing a mentoring relationship, career and personal rejuvenation? Howard K., would you like to take yourself off mute? What are your thoughts on that? How does that resonate with you?
Well, I very much like the word rejuvenation, because I think it's, as we think about our careers, I think the path is usually pretty, circuitous. One thing leads to another and to another, and it hopefully leads to a very satisfying career. But I think throughout that process, there are times when you need to kind of step back and reassess where you want to be in the next year and the next few years. So I think a mentor can help you to answer some questions and ask yourself some questions, hold a mirror up to yourself that helps you to make that a better process to stay fresh. And that's why I like the word rejuvenation.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to add to that? Career and personal rejuvenation. Okay, let's go to enhanced creativity. So how do you think, in a mentoring relationship, and we're talking about, potentially, more of a senior person working with a junior person, how is that going to help enhance creativity? I've been doing a lot of reading lately on creativity, and how do you think that might come out in a mentoring relationship? Anne, what are your thoughts on that? Enhanced creativity.
I'm at a point in my life where I'm looking back on a career, and I always find that when I'm in a relationship with someone who is earlier on in their career, I get surprised, and I learn things that from their experience, because their experience obviously in terms of time frame is different than what mine was. And so I think it drives me to be more creative and look at things in a different way. And hopefully that there's a reciprocal there, because things that were common during parts of my working career may not be common now, but they might still be useful.
Right, that's great. Thank you for that. A lot of times, we might have a feeling of, getting stuck in a particular area, and then working with a mentor by the kinds of questions that they ask may make you begin to think about, looking at things from a very different lens. And the enhanced creativity, especially when we're talking about, one of the things we talk about is the kinds of questions, and we want to make sure we're trying to ask, as part in that mentoring relationship, open-ended questions if you're the mentor, so that you're not always jumping to the solution and finding the solution for those individuals. What are those questions? And it's not easy to ask those open-ended questions, and it's you have to put some thought into it. Okay, enhanced employee development skills. So one of the things we're always working on is, working on, learning and developing those skills. So when you have somebody that's your mentor, it's building that relationship and being able to say, these are the things that I want to try to work on in kind of like a safe environment. So we're always looking to enhance our skills. One of the other benefits of mentoring is the model effective team leadership skills, style, and behaviors. Now, how would you think that modeling effective team leadership skills, or the style and the behaviors, is really a benefit of mentoring? Eileen, what are your thoughts on that?
Hi, Carol, and everyone. No, I think it's great. I mean, to me, role modeling, just showing up intentionally when you're with a mentee is so important. And the leadership skills and team leadership skills come in the form of being fully present, listening, and repeating back, and it goes along with the development skills as well. So when you're role modeling some of those good behaviors of a good team leader coaches, to role model that and be authentic is a way to teach other people to just mirror it, have the mirror in a way. So we have to be on our best behaviors when we do this.
Thank you for that. Joel, is there anything that you'd like to add to that? Model effective team leadership skills, style, and behavior when you're mentoring, and that's one of the benefits of mentoring.
Yeah, I think, and I hope that as we all grow in our journey, we have a a wide range of skills and leadership mindsets that allow us to really adapt and meet the person where they are, while also, of course, challenging them on their journey. So that can simply be about, thinking about different stages of your own leadership and how you maybe operated from that mindset. And, okay, well, if this person is there, how do I meet them there, but also use maybe a little bit more inquiry at times, as opposed to being more direct with some of my advice or suggestions and such. So there's that continuum of, advocating and, trying to get people to model something, and then more of a coach approach. And those can span both mentoring and coaching, as you know. So.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. I always say to Faith, when she comes to me with a question, I said, so are you asking me as your mother? Or are you asking me, do you want me to, coach you through it? So there's like, what is that distinction? And so you do that too, because I think one of the things is that you naturally want to do in any relationships or whether it's at home or at work, is that you have a tendency, you want to give advice. I mean, we all want to, help others make, we want to make the decision for them. And especially when that's one of the things we would always talk about in our leadership programs. And it's with the mentoring relationship, it's the same thing. We want to lead people and guide them, but we want them to come up with the solution. Because if you're coming up, if the individual, if I'm being mentored and I'm coming up with my solution, the tendency is I'm going to implement that solution and I'm going to own that solution.
And Carol, just to jump back in, what you're naming too is the importance of clarity as to what hat you're kind of wearing, because it can be really frustrating if I'm looking for advice and you're coaching me, right? Takes more time and such. I also saw Sue's hand up there, but it just went down. So I don't know if you wanted to jump in, Sue.
Sue, did you have a comment?
Just briefly, my experience as a coach has been that there's a lot of relying on our intuition as well, in terms of, where do we go? Do we inquire? Do we give it more direct feedback? There's a lot of subtle things that are involved in this relationship, at least in my experience.
Great, thank you for that. And then networking. So I think one of the benefits of being in a mentoring relationship is that it's a great opportunity to network. So there's some you're going, that individual that's you're a mentor. If you're being mentored by somebody within the company, they can help you be introduced to other people. I think that the more you expand your network, or if you're interested in learning more about, especially from a career development perspective, about a different part of your organization, it's helpful to be able to have your mentor say, oh, well, we can certainly introduce you to someone in another part of the company, because part of the mentoring, if it's for career development, you may want to learn more about a different part of your company. Now, if you're being mentored by somebody from outside the company, they can still coach you and guide you through, how to go about doing that, as kind of like, in this situation, through an external mentoring relationship. All right, great. Let's go to the next slide. So the old philosophy versus the new, and there are many more things I could have put here, but I just wanted to start with this. Shivana, if I pronounce that correctly, would you mind reading the first one, the old versus the new, the first bullet?
Yes, thank you. So mentors and mentees should have a lot in common. And the new philosophy is that the best matches have differences.
Okay, great. And so why do we think the best matches have differences? We had heard as an experience earlier on, I forget who it was that said that, but why do you think that the best matches, when we're making a mentoring match, that we have differences? Sarah G., how about you, or anyone? Oh, Aziz. Aziz, did you want to respond?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
It's more or less like it helps to diversify your knowledge. So you share from someone that has something different from yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else want to add to that?
I would add that that helps, that diversity helps with the creativity and with the learning on both sides.
Yeah.
If the mentor is very similar to the mentee, then the mentor may not have as many opportunities to learn.
Yeah, that's great. And so when you think about when you're building your team, right? And so what's one of the things that a lot of leaders do? They hire people that look just like them, right? Because that's what they're looking for. And so then what happens? Where is the diversity? Where's the diversity of thinking? So I'm always looking for situations where, I'm testing, what are my beliefs about a particular situation, and then learn from other people. So great. And people are putting some things in the chat. Better a mix of both. Yeah. So thank you for that. So again, when we're looking at making the mentoring matches, which Faith and I will be doing, we're probably going to be looking for those matches where people come from somewhat different backgrounds. So to challenge each other. Bill H., would you like to take yourself off mute and read the next bullet, the old versus the new?
Mentoring is a long-term relationship versus a short-term relationship can build a strong foundation for future development.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. Some mentoring relationships may end up lasting for a very long period of time, but typically when we're establishing a mentoring program for the first time, we're looking at roughly a 6-month time frame, depending when we kick it off and when we want to close it out. But that sometimes doesn't feel like it's enough time, but at least it'll give you an opportunity to say, is this match really working for me? And a short-term relationship, as it says, can build a strong foundation for that future development. Now, that doesn't mean you might necessarily want to end that relationship. Depends. You can mutually agree to extend it. But in situations that I've been in, for the most part, we've established mentorings for about the 6-month time frame. Aziz, you have your hand up again. Did you have another comment for us?
Yes. Based on research, we all know that long-time goals are achieved by short-time goals. So when you have a short period of time, you'll be focused than when you have a wider range that I can feel. So procrastination can come in when it is longer. Okay, let's set, before you know it, it will be prolonged and you may not be able to achieve it.
Right. That's really great. You made me think about, like, it's a little nugget of time, in that sometimes that little nugget of time is all you need to kind of like jumpstart whatever it is, that you're trying to work on. So that's a great point. Thank you for that. Elvina, if I've said that correctly, would you like to take yourself off mute and read the last bullet on the left-hand side and the right-hand side?
Sure. So look for a mentor higher up the food chain versus a good mentor is anyone you can learn from.
Okay, great. So yeah, thank you for that. So any comments on that? Looking for a mentor higher up on the food chain versus a good mentor is anyone. Joel said it only takes a second to create a spark or turn on a light bulb. Any other thoughts? What do you think? Bill, you're off mute. Do you have a comment for us?
Oh, no, I just haven't gotten back on mute.
Oh, well, now that I've got you, now you have to respond. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was thinking about the one before that too, where somebody made an impact on my career and it was one statement. And that was it. And yeah, I knew her, but she never really mentored me before.
Yeah.
But I was been hired by somebody who then quit their job before I started working, and her boss didn't have time to supervise me. She said, "You said in the interview you knew what you were doing. Go do it."
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, I lied in the interview, but that really gave me the confidence and said, just go do it.
Great.
And so sometimes a passing comment can make a huge difference with somebody.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes forget that.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. And, you know, I always tell people, you know, sometimes, you know, you want to change the world and, you know, you change people's lives one at a time. So Joel says, I'm not sure Anne could ever allow you to lie. But yeah, so again, I mean, one of the things that I'm going to talk about in one of the other slides is that a lot of times, you know, people misconstrue what the mentoring relationship is. So that's why we talk a little bit about the old philosophy versus the new, and, you know, kind of like, you know, hanging on the coattails of somebody that's higher in the organization, thinking that because you have a mentoring relationship with them, that's going to pull you through. All right, great. Let's go to the next slide that talks about what makes a good mentor. And I have a lot of notes that I've written on this. So let's see. Matthew, would you mind going through and just reading this slide for us? What makes a good mentor?
Sure thing. So what makes a good mentor? Willingness to invest time in self and others, accessible and open to others, accessible and open to others, able to share experiences with others, able to listen without preaching or lecturing, provide appropriate information when needed, and encourage the exploration of options.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And I think we've talked a little bit about this, but I think I want to spend some time on some of these. It's really important when you're in a mentoring relationship that both the mentor and the mentee, you know, it's a relationship and we need to build trust. And I'm going to pose the question, so, you know, how do we build trust in any kind of a relationship? What are some of the key factors we need to consider? And I would like to go to, let's see, Anne, what are your thoughts on that? How do we build trust in whether it's a mentoring relationship or in any relationship?
Well, I think it starts with listening and being honest with people. So being honest about who you are, so that they feel like they can reciprocate and be honest about who they are. So that's kind of the starting point for me.
Yeah, that's great. Does anybody want to add anything to that? Think about every relationship begins with a foundation of trust. How do you build a trusting relationship? Any other thoughts that anybody wants to add?
I'll add that I think that goes along with respect, because we can feel it when someone respects us, and we can feel it when we're willing to respect somebody else, you know, without a lot of strings attached.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. There's a quote that we use in some of our leadership programs. Teddy Roosevelt said it, but other people have said it as well. I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care. So in order to build that foundation of trust and be able to have that relationship, a mentor-mentee relationship, we really need to understand, you know, each other. It's not one way, it's two ways. So Anne talked about the ability to listen, and so what does that listening looks like? And one of the things we'll continue to talk through as you're going through these mentoring relationships is that active listening. Now, even though we are doing this virtual, you can still do some of the affirmation that you're paying attention. So what does that look like? You know, I use my hands. I still use my hands, right? You can definitely be nodding your head. I mean, and that's why it's so important. You can use your voice differently. And so I think it's important to understand that what does that look like when you're in a mentoring relationship and you're doing this virtually and not in person? How do you keep the person engaged? And the eye contact is also really important. And you want to minimize any kind of distractions, you know, when you are in that mentoring relationship. So we can still do that and show those active listening kind of characteristics, which are important. Number 5, provide appropriate information when needed. Anne already said that as well. It's about being honest, right? And that's the note that I had next to that. We want to make sure that we're honest with the individuals. And so how do you get to that point? And again, it's taking the time up front. It's going to take some time to build the relationship. And how do you build that so that you feel like you're in a safe environment? And then encourage the exploration of options. That's why your mentor is there. You know, they might help you find other resources. Again, when are you offering advice? You know, when are you offering advice? Is that what they want? Or, you know, exploring different options. They might be stuck and thinking, I don't know where else to go or who else to talk to or how to get through this. I go through that all the time. After having moved to Pennsylvania, the different things I had to do and getting through it. And so Faith is my coach to remind me of, definitely and encouraging, yeah, you can do this. You can absolutely do this. There's nothing magical behind any of this. So a good mentor also encourages and helps you explore those options. So some things to think about as a mentor, it's the active listening, it's the building trust, it's helping people determine their goals. What are the goals that they want to reach? And then also be encouraging. So let's go to the next slide. So what makes for a good mentee? All right, so let's go through this. Let's see, Eileen, would you mind reading through that for us? Take yourself off mute.
Okay, what makes for a good mentee? Openness to a mentor's comments, have realistic expectations of the mentoring relationship, are clear about expectations and outcomes, accepts mentoring relationships with no strings attached, i.e. no employment expectations, are able to express dilemmas, feelings, emotions, are able to listen, are capable of self-examination, have the courage to try out new behaviors and patterns. Nice list.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. So the reason behind this is if you are in a mentoring relationship or you want to have a mentor, you need to play an active role. This isn't me sitting here saying, okay, well, I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to wait for my mentor to reach out to me. We're actually going to be instructing you, those of you that are going to get into relationships. It's your job to schedule those meetings with your mentor. You can see this is very, there's a lot of things that are going on here that we're expectations that we have from mentees. But you really are the person that is wanting to work with someone else that can help, guide you through the process. So again, how comfortable are you in that mentoring relationship to be able to express dilemmas or feelings or emotions? It's kind of like, are you able to listen? I mean, how much self-examination are you comfortable with doing? And you might not have it initially, right? It might be something that you have to work into. And so your relationship may take, building that trust or getting to that point of being able to, at the 6-month mark, it's like, aha, you know what? Now I'm really ready to get into certain kinds of things. So you play a very active role as the mentee. Is there anybody that wants to add any comments to this before we move on? I mean, this is kind of like, a mutual relationship. And it's kind of 2 ways. It's not one way, but we are asking that the mentees will help drive the process. Any thoughts? I know we have some things coming through the chat, which people can be looking at as well. All right, let's go to some mentoring notes. And so some of the things we want to think about is that we want to make sure that people aren't misinterpreting the relationship, like counting your mentor as a buddy. Your mentor is not there to act as a therapist. Mentoring, you don't want to disclose information that's shared with you as a mentor confidentially. You don't want to miss your appointment on either side. And not knowing what you want from the relationship. So that's why I think it's really important to think about, what is it that you want to gain out of this mentoring relationship? So if you think about what are the goals that you have, and again, for the most part, in my experiences, mentoring has been tied to or linked to more about your career development, and maybe you're stuck, like we talked about earlier on. And your mentor is going to help get you to the place of looking at things a little bit differently. So again, not if you don't go to your mentoring meetings with some kind of a goal in mind, it's going to be a little more challenging. And then it just becomes like having one conversation after another. So it'll be up to the mentees to come into the relationship with a goal that they want to work on, and also for the mentors to help keep that on track. Are there any other mentoring notes that maybe have jumped out at anybody as we're going through this? Okay, so some suggested areas of discussion, right? So let's say you're in that mentoring meeting and you don't have that goal defined, like that, what you actually want to talk about. You can certainly begin by talking. These are just some topics that you can certainly talk about. But again, any mentoring program that I've been involved in, for the most part, it's really more about your career development. And you can come up with, when you're talking about, if you need to help structure what your goal is, think about every day, what is it that you do in the current work situation or outside of work, something that you want to get better at. What is it that, what potentially is it that you want to change? What is the behavior change? What is the benefit to you? What is the benefit to your organization or the community group that you're involved with? What are some potential barriers that may keep you from doing that? And then be thinking about how you manage success. It isn't any different than really setting, an objective or a goal for yourself in your current work environment. So again, these are just, if you're struggling with, I don't really have a goal right now as far as a career goal, I need some help with that. Maybe there are some other topics that you can start to talk about that can help get you going in the right direction. Okay, let's go to the next slide, which is the program logistics. And as I had mentioned, we're looking right now for a 6-month commitment for the mentors and the mentees. It can be longer through mutual agreement because, as I said, building that trust relationship may take a little bit longer. You want to make sure you schedule meetings at mutually convenient times on a monthly basis. You want to make sure that you have the desire to participate. Continue to establish trust and mutual respect throughout the relationship, and make sure you have clear communication of mentor and mentee expectations. So where do we go next? The next steps are for the mentees to sign up. Faith and I will do mentor and mentee matching email, and we're going to, put you in touch with, we'll let the mentor and the mentees know who's been matched. And we will also share with you a couple of different videos as a support to being a mentor or a mentee. And remember, it's really important that you as the mentee will drive that process. It's up to you to schedule that first meeting and recurring meetings. So with that, are there any questions at this point?
Carol, I just was wondering if you had a slide or resource on differentiating coaching from mentoring, because it's such a fine line, and I struggle with that.
Yeah, so I don't have a slide on it, but I can talk to it.
Okay.
So a lot of times, I've tried to emphasize that, mentoring is more about, relating to, your career development and talking about your career and working with somebody on that. Coaching, whether it's formal or informal, coaching sometimes works on a very specific area or like a behavior change. So if anybody is going to have what we would call like an executive coach, from my former company, typically there would be an assessment that would be done prior to them getting a coach assigned to them. And basically what they would do based on that assessment, they would work on particular behavior changes. And so I think some of the, what I see as the difference is, mentoring is a little scaled back, although the kinds of questions and the kinds of behaviors that you're demonstrating as a mentor. So for example, the building the trust, the active listening is common to both coaching and mentoring. But I think the fine line is, yeah, you know, like Joel had mentioned, you're probably going to get into some of those coaching conversations. But to me, the coaching is more specific on maybe a particular, you know, a behavioral change or, you know, a blind spot that you might have. Whereas I've always looked at mentoring focusing on your career development. So there is definitely a fine line there. And so, I mean, whether you call it coaching or mentoring, I mean, at the end of the day, you're having a relationship with somebody that's going to help you. But in anything that I've done or read, the mentoring leans more towards career development. Okay. All right. So with that, Faith, Aziz, you have a question? You have your hand raised?
Actually, I don't know the modality you want to use, but this is just a suggestion, nothing more. Now, why not list the mentors with their specification, like their career, professional career and the likes. Then let the mentees pick at least minimum of 2 or maximum of 2. So before you can pair them. So because I believe the mentees know where they want to go into. So they will be able to pair that, okay, I think I'll prefer this than this in the list. Then from the list of, like say, the 2 picked, you can actually give one and pair it with one another.
Great comment. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. So with that, Faith, do you want me to turn it over back to you or to Matt?
Yep, so we'll hand it back over to Matthew or Anne.
Thanks, Faith, and thank you, Carol. That was a wonderful session, and I hope everyone else got some good takeaways and definitely sign up to be a mentee or a mentor by reaching out to Faith or Carol to make sure you get on that list. Again, just kind of doing some quick housekeeping as we're coming up on end of time. You know, Leadership Forum is a nonprofit, and to put on events like this, we do a lot of you know, love, labor, time, and thought that goes into these kind of programs. So any donation or any kind of blessing or thoughtful gift helps the program continue making these offerings and continue to make them better for you as participants. So feel free to utilize the QR code there. I believe it's on your left-hand side. You can scan it with your phone camera, and it'll take you straight to our donation page to continue helping the organization provide programs such as this. And also, if you are new to joining us, definitely we would love to have you as a member to continue to kind of stay in the loop and be on the know of new offerings and things that we continue to put together for you all. So that is the QR code on your right. If you would like to be on the newsletter or anything of that nature, feel free to send me your email via chat here in Zoom, or if you like, you know, go on our website and sign up there as well. I see Rebecca asking, will these slides be available? I'll let Faith or Carol answer that real quickly.
Yep. So after this, we'll send out the slides and we'll send out information around if you'd like to sign up to be a mentee.
Perfect. Thank you, Faith. And last thing, you know, if you're not able to donate monetarily, we would love your feedback. That is arguably almost just as valuable as we continue to, you know, make tweaks and do things to improve. So survey in the chat box there. Joel pasted the comment, so feel free to check it out. Thank you again, Faith and Carol, for doing this session. I think everyone enjoyed it. We all enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing you all in February for our next ILC.
Thank you.